Hey everybody, Tim here with today's episode of Orville, Season 1, Episode 2, Command Performance. Now, first of all, this episode was directed by Robert Duncan McNeill, most famous probably for playing Tom Paris in Star Trek Voyager. So, first we had Jon Favreau, and now we have a Star Trek veteran. The show's already off to a great start with directors and stuff like that. Overall, I would say it's a great episode. It really kind of deals with putting people in command. It's a common theme that we have seen in Star Trek of basically taking characters and putting them in a zoo, and still a lot of the standard kind of jokey conversational type humor. It starts off with Boris laying an egg, and just the whole thing with him and his partner Clayton, and just it's just kind of funny the way he talks about it and how the gestation period's 3 weeks. I think he said 21 days or something. And so the fact that he needs to be relieved of command. And it's also a great stepping stone for the series in general, because from the very next episode, this egg is very important. And it's also kind of a thing for Star Trek to watch a kid kind of grow with the show. We saw it in Voyager, we saw it in The Next Generation, we saw it in Deep Space Nine. So it kind of makes sense. The whole thing of when they encounter the freighter and Ed's mom and dad are on the ship and they're just talking back and forth. And then the whole conversation with Kelly, well, what did your mom say about me? She called you a bitch 46 times in one sitting. The people next to us complained. Stuff like that's great. I can't even imagine, just the whole divorce situation, and then once you bring in-laws in on it, it's just really funny. It's really interesting. The whole the cannabis edible, the pot brownie scene was a little odd to me. That one felt a little bit forced. And that's kind of more of Seth MacFarlane's humor poking through. And that's kind of the stuff that people had issues with. I still dug it. I still thought it was funny. Especially looking at where we're at. Liquor is legal and they can get drinks. So, where we're at now, cannabis is legal, at least where I live, at least. And so, this is years in the future, so I guess it kind of makes sense. I'm sure there's some sort of, it's not as strong or something like that. I'm sure it's a controlled substance. So I still really, really enjoyed it. As soon as Ed and Kelly are kidnapped, when Alara, again, just runs off the bridge, she just books it down the alley. And it's we saw it in the first episode, we saw it in this one, it's kind of great. And then just Boris, naked, sitting on the egg, and it's oh, okay, so he wasn't lying. He actually has to sit on the egg. So it's kind of interesting to watch, these people placed in command and the way they kind of process it and deal with it. Because technically Boris should be in command, but since he's busy, it had to fall to Alara, who's never been in that situation. Let's see, she talks to the doctor, who has the great line of don't worry, I'll be your Obi-Wan, which is a Star Wars reference. It's great. Admiral Tucker is in this one, played by the amazing Ron Canada. Again, a Star Trek actor who's been in several appearances throughout the series. So the big twist is that Ed and Kelly are actually in a zoo. They're in this region of space that they get teleported to, and it has all sorts of different creatures. And they actually say Mocklins at one point, which is Boris's race. And they're just sitting there and people can watch them. And so it's kind of funny, as they're stuck in this zoo learning about all of the other different species, Alara and Isaac have to go talk to this technologically superior race, which again, they're super racist because they're so superior. And Isaac has to be please just listen to this little girl. And he finally does, and they're we'll give you something better. And they're going to just kill Ed and Kelly. And Ed has the great line of I'm going to the bathroom to read. That's his last words, which is the famous last words of Elvis, according to his girlfriend at the time. And so they end up trading them for reality TV, which again, I really enjoy Seth MacFarlane's humor. The one thing I can say about him is he does very specific period jokes. So, for example, this came out in 2018. And so, they start making references to, Keeping with the Kardashians and stuff like that. 10 years from now, 20 years from now, I don't know if people will still get those types of jokes. But then again, if you watch something let's say, Golden Girls, BR, Dorothy and Sophia and all of them, they'll make references to actors and stuff like that, if you didn't grow up in the 70s, you have no idea what they're talking to. You can get some of it, but if you show Golden Girls to a young person today, they might laugh at the situations, but they won't necessarily laugh at the pop culture references. And so that's kind of one of those types of jokes. So it's one of those you kind of have to adapt as you go. And then finally, the big cliffhanger where Boris's egg hatches. So presuming we just jumped 3 weeks into the future, and Clyden comes in. The first time we've seen Clyden, but it's only the second episode. That's fine. And it's a female. So what is going to be the impact of this? A female in an all-male race. They don't even make you wait. Boom, the next episode, it's all about it. So overall, I still really enjoy this show. I really like the conversational humor and just kind of watching the different characters grow. What do you guys think about it? Thank you for watching. Thank you guys for everything. And I'll see you guys next time for About a Girl.